Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show! I'm your host Paul, and in this video, we're breaking down weapons! Yeah, so the Zach Cregger horror is now out digitally, so I thought we'd revisit the movie to discuss everything hidden beneath the surface. Weapons is a film with a lot going on, and there's a lot of unanswered questions that come at the end. Why 217?
Why?
Why the AR-15 above the house?
Why?
And how old is Gladys?
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Well, more how than why there, but we're going to be going through it all. I don't want to waste any more of your time though, so with that out of the way, let's get into weapons.
How long is she gonna stay with us?
Hard to say, pal.
Okay, so Zach Cregger's Weapons script actually kickstarted a bidding war in Hollywood. Though New Line secured it in the end, there was a lot of back and forth between different teams. Jordan Peele actually fired his guys because they were unable to lock it down. Netflix also offered more than New Line, but their deal came with a theatrical release. If you're a physical media collector like me, then you'll know we've been crying out for Barbarian on Blu-ray for like years now. But we still haven't got it, and Cregger said that he's tried and tried and tried. So that may have even pushed him towards a New Line, and overall, they won the deal over the streamer. Also, that's like dark coloured lipstick around my mouth. It's not shit. I hope you know that. Either way, dropping it in the theatre led to a very clever marketing gimmick, and lots of chains premiered the movie at 217. Now this number appears at several points throughout the film, with there being lots of different theories about why it reoccurs. The first of these is due to the death of Trevor Moore. Cregger was a long-time friend and collaborator with Moore, with them co-creating The Widest Kids You Know. Sadly, Moore's life was cut short in 2021 on the 7th of August. If we take the year and date this could be our first 217. The 7th of August is also an important date for the movie, as this is when it was released for previews. Now Moore's time of death is unknown, however, we do know it was around 2:30 AM. Because of this, it's possible this number was also chosen due to it being a similar time. Now it becomes even more apparent that Weapons is about processing the grief of Moore when we hear Josh Brolin's comments on the script.
Every character was based on a reaction that he had had in the trajectory of his grieving process for a friend of his that had died. This is we're talking about the same horror movie, right? It's cosmetic and all this kind of stuff, and then you're telling me about this profound experience.
The
underpinnings, and I love that. And then he's using the horror genre as a tool, to manifest whatever this grief is that he's feeling.
This video is sponsored by ZocDoc. I will explain the glasses in just a bit. So this one's for our friends across the pond in the good old US of A. ZocDoc is a free revolutionary healthcare website that connects patients with top-rated doctors in their area. What ZocDoc does is that allows you to search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and choose the right one for your needs. From here, you can click and instantly book an appointment. This ranges from things like mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and much more. Now, as you can see, I've got a bit of a funky eye at the moment, which has stopped me shooting a lot of our amazing videos. My doctor still makes me ring up at 8 and spend about an hour trying to get through, and I wish I had a system just like this. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across nearly every specialty that you can get instant access to. You can also see their actual appointment openings and fit it around your schedule. Choose a time that works for you and click to instantly book a visit. ZocDoc appointments also typically happen within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even get same-day appointments. You don't have to talk to anyone, just book with a click and get your healthcare needs seen to right away. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to my page, zocdoc.com/heavy spoilers. That's linked in the description, and it will let you find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today in a range of different specialities. Again, go to zocdoc.com/heavy spoilers and use their free revolutionary healthcare website to find the doctor that's right for you. Thanks. Now, another way we can look at the 217 is because of how many people disappeared from the class. Overall, 17 children go missing, and we have Alex and Justine being left behind. The latter is obviously a teacher, but in total, we have 19 in the class. So 17 go missing and 2 remain in public. I've also seen 217 as being people initially under the spell, with there being 17 children and 2 adults and Alex's parents. Either way though, that's where we begin things, with Maddie the narrator telling us about the town. Maddie doesn't appear in the movie, but her childlike voice gives it the feeling of an urban legend. Though I've seen some theories that Maddie's Madeline McNulty from The Class, she's actually voiced by Scarlett Sher. She's telling us a story that happened 2 years before, with the kids being missing for a period of 2 months.
This is a true story. It happened right here in my town 2 years ago.
So that repetition of 2 involving the story of 17 missing kids, 217. Having her tell a story also helps to blur the line between truth and legend, and it keeps things ambiguous about what really went on. Maddie says the town made up a story to cover up the truth, and it's possible that the witch thing's a lie. Archer's dream may reveal the truth buried in his subconscious, and that AR-15 may have a haunting meaning. The numbers 217 appear on the side and may hint towards the Parkland shooting. This school shooting tragically saw the death of 17 people and happened during the month of February. February is of course the second month, so we get another 2 and another 17. Having read the original script, I was also a bit surprised they cut out the section about Valentine's Day cards. This went down during a scene with the class where the children had to give them out to each other. These were then the personal items that Alex grabbed and Gladys used to control the kids. They cut that from the movie, simplified down to just the name tags, but yeah, in the original script, it was in fact Valentine's Day cards. Now why I'm bringing this up is because the Parkland shooting happened on Valentine's Day. If we class 217 as 2:17 PM, that would have been roundabout when the school was coming to a close. And it could denote a time in the day rather than the night. After the shooting, US Congress also opposed a bill that would ban assault rifles. This came in with 217 votes to 213, and therefore it was too close to pass, which may be why Cregger included it. Potentially, the town then covered it up or came up with an alternate story to help them deal with the pain. As Maddie says,
Every kid walked downstairs and into the dark, and they never came back.
However, this is a bit of a weird comment to make, as we do know the children returned by the end. There she says,
Some of them even started talking again this year.
This could be Cregger saying they began opening up about what happened and actually acknowledging the truth. Perhaps over time the wounds healed and they were finally able to talk about their trauma. Alex is also shown a lot like the lone gunman stereotype. He's bullied, a loner, and has what could be seen as neglectful parents. In the film, we know why that is, but if people are dreaming up the story, then the possession could be a metaphor for something else. The pair both seem like meth heads, and James could symbolize the drug problem in the town. Marcus talks to Justine about how he took a student home once because her parents didn't pick her up. We don't see this happening, but we do see a teacher who offers Alex a lift. This could highlight, the teachers are just expecting themselves to do it and bring attention to the neglect that might exist beyond the movie. Or it could all just be rubbish. Cregger has said that Alex's story is somewhat autobiographical though, and that he was often the caregiver to his alcoholic parents. Cregger said the cooking, cleaning, and feeding his parents were all things he had to do, and that there was sort of an inversion between the parent and child dynamics, purely due to their addiction. He said he simply added the supernatural twist, and that Gladys represents the foreign substance that comes into the home and turns it into a very scary place. He said you can go to school and act like everything's okay, but the real horror is returning home and seeing your parents in this zombie-like state. But either way, we begin at Maybrook High School, and here we meet Justine. Arriving to find most of her classes missing, it's here that we learn what happened. Now as she walks in, you can see a piece of paper talking about India in 1948. Later on, when Archer visits the other parents' house, we can see the number is 1948. So why is this significant? Well, as we learn, Justine's surname's Gandhi.
Her name was Justine Gandhi.
Though the spelling is different, this sounds identical to Gandhi, who was assassinated in India in 1948. Justine is of course attacked by the town, and this character assassination is what the first act revolves around. Reach! We then get a montage of the children running in the night with their arms spread to the side. Cregger clarified that this was to appear similar to the Napalm Girl photograph from Vietnam. This is one of the most famous photographs from the conflict, and it greatly changed public sentiment. Before this, the public thought it was soldiers fighting soldiers, but this highlighted it was kids caught in the crossfire. It's a really unnatural way to move, and it felt like it was playing into the destruction of innocence, which is a big theme in the film. We also hear George Harrison's Beware of Darkness playing in the background. This comes from the album All Things Must Pass, which feels really fitting for the film. Now it's thought that this piece is a reflection of Harrison's strained relationship with his former Beatles bandmates. This idea of friendships falling apart is also something you could apply to the town, which is all caused by this event. Now that line about them not coming back is something I want you to pay attention to, and we'll discuss it in more detail later in the video. It's a little tease there. We then get the title appearing with there being a triangle added to the O. This is an occult symbol that also appears on the bell. It represents the triple goddess of the maiden, mother and crone. These are the trinity figures in witchcraft, with there also being a 6. A triangle and trinity are 3, so next to 1 6 it means 666. Because of this we have the trinity and then the marriage to Satan embodied on the bell. $666 million later appears as a lottery win in the gas station, and it further hints to this connection. Our editor Matt also pointed out that the triangle, that's what you tend to press when you want to switch weapons in a first-person shooter. During this, we then see Alex and his father being interrogated by the police. On a second watch, you might notice that he's completely zoned out, and in hindsight, we know he's under Gladys's spell. You can actually catch Gladys in this moment as well, and we see her bright red fingernails and also lovely ginger wig as we cut to the behind shot. Lovely wig that, very nice. Anyway, though we start with Justine, we obviously get other characters that we meet throughout the movie and get their own dedicated chapters. Cregger was very upfront about his inspirations, with him saying that he looked at Magnolia. Bit of a side tangent, but Paul's actually a direct nod to John C. Reilly's character in that movie. The tone and minor elements of Prisoners were also taken as well, along with the non-linear storytelling of Pulp Fiction. The structure allows us to see the same event from different perspectives, all while unraveling the story. Now, Justine is an alcoholic, and we see her constantly drinking throughout. Cregger also talked about how the movies comment on addiction. Be it booze or drugs or hell, even an obsession with your son, all the characters have things that make them feel better. However, these can also be used as weapons and as a way to harm someone. Justine gets alcohol poured on her at the store, and James uses the syringes to stab Paul. Archer's love for his son, when that gets stripped away, the guy loses his concentration and it's clearly affecting his marriage. Alex's love for his parents is also weaponized, and these things all end up causing damage to the characters. Whereas on the flip side of this, Gladys doesn't have any attachments, and thus she's able to win and win. Anyway, we see Justine at the parent-teachers conference meeting, which is where they demand answers. I love the way this is shot though, and how they don't really show us the other parents. I think it's great how Archer's shown from behind here shouting, and it's only when we get his scenes that we properly get to see him. Archer points the finger at Justine, literally, and is clearly looking for someone to blame. Though Josh Brolin nails the role in the movie, he wasn't initially who Cregger had in mind. Pedro Pascal was gonna play the part originally, which would have seen him starring in 2 films with Julia Garner in the space of a couple of weeks. Pedro had other commitments, including Fantastic Four, so fortunately for us, we got Josh Brolin instead, who absolutely kills it. No Pedro shade there either. Now, not only are Brolin and Garner big parts of the MCU, we also got Wong as well. Brolin and Garner have appeared in a film together before though, with them both being in Sin City: A Dame to Kill For. Anyway, Archer's son's called Matthew, which is a name that may have been picked for a reason.
Are you saying that we should be upset with Matthew for what happened to him?
This could be a reference to Matthew 21:17 in the Bible. This is about the execution of children, which could apply here. In a further nod to the Bible, YouTube account Pope Joy pointed out in our last video that the flood in the story of Noah came on the 17th day of the 2nd month. So there's several 217s there. Justine then apologizes and offers condolences, but it's clear the town want vengeance. Justine then goes to the liquor store, which is where someone asks her for money while holding open the door. This is none other than James, which is such a cool detail. This basically sums up his whole character, which I love. James appears helpful, but really he's just opening the door up for money. This ties into what gets him in the end, as he says he'll tell people where the kids are in exchange for the reward. So his helpfulness has a selfishness to it, just like him opening the door here. Had he just reported the kids and left it at that, then he would have come out the story unscathed. So yeah, great character work here in just a very subtle moment. We also see that Justine clocks a truck watching her, which we later learn is Archer. Justine then returns home, and I love the way we see 2 people passing outside that we later see in Archer's story. This then leads to him writing witch on her car. We later learn that Archer works in house construction and that he took paint off the site.
And then I showed up and I see that Alvin painted the door with the paint that you ordered, and
we discover that he ordered the wrong color, but then uses this red on Justine's car. In the original script, it was the foreman who messed up the order, whereas the final release changes it to Archer. I really like this alteration though, as it shows how much things are knocking his concentration. Justine then meets with Paul, and you might notice his busted up finger. We later learn this came from his meeting with James. In the background, we can also hear Percy Sledge's The Dark End of the Street. This is a song about people meeting in secret who are currently cheating on their partners, which is very apt. Justine clearly hangs out at the bar a lot and is on a first name basis with the bartender.
Tony, my friend wants a drink.
She tells Marcus that she just wants to work, but he puts her on leave due to all the controversy. And thus, she hits the bottle hard. Paul's also a recovering alcoholic, and Justine gets him to drink, which we see the outcome of the next day. I do wonder if Paul and Justine actually met at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, as he does touch upon this later.
If I don't feel fine, then I'll hit a meeting, okay?
Dropping Paul off at work, we get Justine following Alex. The grass hasn't been cut at his house for a while, and there's newspapers on the drive and up along the window. A detail I love is that throughout the film, you basically see more and more newspapers piling up in front of the car. Now inside, his parents are sat on the sofa, and I love the slow tease that there's something else going on. But yeah, right now it just looks like the meth house from Breaking Bad. Ignored by Marcus, Justine then goes back to the liquor store. Donna follows her through the aisles, and I love the foreshadowing here of how Marcus will follow her later like a heat-seeking missile. Donna's mascara has been running, and she's clearly been crying with Paul. She blames Justine instead of Paul and covers her in alcohol, which isn't too dissimilar from the petrol that Justine gets covered in later when Marcus also comes after her. That night, Justine then has a nightmare. She re-enters the class, and we see the students there with all their heads down, except for Alex. He raises us up, and we get our first clue about Gladys. Alex's face is covered in her makeup, which teases that she's the one controlling everything through Alex. We can also see on the board that they're learning about parasites, which is a lesson they repeat from Alex's perspective. As we discover with Gladys, she lives off others while consuming their life force. Justine then sees Gladys on the ceiling, which is what wakes her up. Pay close attention to her bottom half, as we'll discuss that more later on. Justine then has a stakeout at Alex's house, and we get the creepiest scene in the movie. I remember being sat at the cinema and everyone just taking a deep gasp as Alex's mum struts out the house. I love the way she moves so unnaturally, and it's almost like a puppet. She then stands at the window before going to the back. We then hear the boot open, and yeah, I love how you don't see any of it and the shot's just focused on Justine. We then get a further mystery as rather than killing her, she just cuts her hair. So like on a first watch, you're like, what the hell's going on, mate? It's at this point that we then cut to Archer. He's sleeping in his son's bed and desperate to tell him that he loves him. Archer never did it while he was still there, and it does feel like he may be Cregger speaking to the audience through the character. About his room, we can also see a poster with a character carrying a gun. This could tie into that idea of violence being everywhere and how we're just so desensitized to it. Waking up and seeing this gun may also be why it appears in his dream. You might also notice the bat symbol on the bedsheets. Cregger is currently thought to be working with DC very soon due to his henchman Batman script getting a lot of buzz around it. It's clear that Archer's obsessed with finding out what happened, whereas even his wife is kind of moving on.
I'm going to work.
Both the pair have lost their connection and are now vacantly drifting through life. Kind of like Alex's parents. Throughout the film, we learn that Matthew was a bully who used to make fun of Alex all the time. This aggressive attitude, something he clearly got from his dad, who basically bosses his way about the town. Whether it's with the other parents or even Justine, it's clear he's used to intimidating people to get what he wants. However, when it comes to finding his son, he's absolutely helpless. Archer reviews the camera footage over and over and is able to do this due to the Ring doorbell. 50 years ago, you couldn't have revisited the disappearance like this because CCTV wasn't absolutely everywhere. We then had the advent of that, which gave us the ability to look back on things. Come 2025, everyone's got cameras on their doorbells and has the ability to overanalyze everything. It's helped in a lot of ways, but also makes more mysterious things something you can obsess over. And it's clear Archer's losing his focus on other things because he's so fixated on this.
They call you all morning, boss?
Yeah, I had a snag on the way over.
As we know, the reason he's been ignoring the calls and is late is because he's just been watching the footage on repeat. so his entire life is just fixated on his son. Kinda like a heat-seeking missile but for his attention. The order's messed up, and we can see there's an anger bubbling within him. The police aren't taking it as seriously as he is, and then he has his outburst at the school.
What do you see that I don't? I see something that I don't understand at all.
I love the way things are reframed here because in the prior version, we were just focused on Justine. Archer was just a random parent shouting in the background, but now we see things from his point of view. And it's now Justine who's shot out of focus and is off in the background. He then follows her and paints her car. That night he has a dream where he follows his son and then sees the gun above the house. Archer wears dog tags throughout the film and also has a laser pointer. Beyond this, he describes Marcus as moving like a heat-seeking missile. Because of this, people have assumed that he was in the military and may have used an AR-15 during combat. So this could simply be Gladys taunting him with something from his past. In the dream, Archer then finds his son in bed looking vacant, much like how he finds him at the end. We then get a jump scare of this actually being Gladys, showing how she's controlling this all. We later get a similar jump scare with Alex seeing Gladys in bed, and I love how it kind of repeats it. The next morning, he then spots the radio tower. First watch, I was like, is there radio waves coming from the radio tower that controls the kids? Nah, but it does act as a bit of a red herring. Archer then goes to chat with some of the parents. The mum here is played by Sarah Paxton, who's Zach's real life wife. She featured as a voice actor throughout Barbarian, and our breakdown on that movie is on the channel now. That movie, of course, also featured Justin Long, who cameos as Gary. It was great seeing him pop up, and Long wasn't listed in the cast list, so it was a nice surprise. He basically lets Archer do what he wants, and it's hilarious Archer just waits around for him to return. He then sees Justine at the gas station, which is when Marcus arrives. I love how you can see him coming in from the distance, and yeah, just an insane way to take the movie. You might also notice that Marcus is wearing a Mickey Mouse t-shirt, with this version now being out of copyright, so they can use it. Fuck you, Disney. Lots of blood on it, mate, though, and if you need a new t-shirt, then why not check out our merch store right below the video. There we have 2 new shirts inspired by weapons, including our Gladys one and our 217 one. We have lots of different shirts on there right now, lots of different franchises, and if you buy 3, you get 20% off. Shabow! Anyway, I love the way this basically cuts to another character and it gives Archer's story an amazing cliffhanger. I adore the way Cregger wrote this episodically, and you could easily have this as a TV show. And yeah, ending here, I could just imagine people's theories for ages and ages about how it was Mephisto. Which isn't even a slight diss, mate. I was on that train as well, and doing this movie episodically, I think I'd be on the train there too. Now we then join the character with the best name in the movie. Learning more about his relationship with Donna, we see the pair have been trying for kids. This is a far cry from how he described stuff with Justine, where he said there wasn't really anything happening with them anymore. Paul also talks about how she gets 6 nights at a hotel, but she corrects this to 3. She says she doesn't have to be there for all as well, and we later see how she's returned home early. Paul's drinking and infidelity have caused issues in the past though, and ultimately this chapter's about history repeating itself. But Donna sees Justine as being the issue, which is why she follows her in the grocery store. Paul's looked down upon by the captain, who just so happens to be his father-in-law. We also have the fact he's seen Justine, and also the fact people are blaming the cops for not finding the kids. So tensions are pretty high, and when he spots James breaking into somewhere, this just sets him off. Also, like the fact he had needles in his pocket, mate, and if that pricked me, I would have smashed him like the like button as well. This is why I can't be a policeman. This is all caught on his dash cam though, which in many ways is similar to the Ring camera. There's just this idea of constant surveillance laced throughout the movie though, and whether it's characters following people, or cameras catching everything, or people just constantly following Justine, someone somewhere is watching you. After sucker punching James, Paul then speaks to the captain. Ed advises him to wait until the footage is overwritten, and then as long as James doesn't report it, everything should be gravy. Paul then gets a text from Justine, and it's hilarious how this is shown on the phone. In the background, we have him and Donna smiling away, and then the presence of Justine is creeping in to break them up. We then see Paul and Justine meeting at the bar. In one of the best jump cuts of all time, we go from them hugging to them then having sex. Paul then goes home to find Donna back early and guilty's written all over his face. Going back to work, it's clear she told her dad, and then James appears in the car park. So Paul is just ready to unload. We then go to James's story, which is another great cliffhanger. Watching him wake up, we hear him talking on the phone to what I believe is his brother.
Of course I want to pay Mom back, but I can't do that until I get the, money to get the clothes so that I can do the job so that I can pay Mom back.
Earlier at the store, when opening the door, he also mentioned his brother there.
Excuse me, ma'am, I'm saving up a bus ticket to see my brother. Do you need change on me
sorry.
at all?
So it's clear he constantly leans on this guy and basically brings him into his addiction. Joining him walking along the street trying car doors, he manages to get some items for the pawn shop. The owner won't take them though, as they're clearly stolen and could get him in trouble. However, he's more than happy to take the silverware later on, even though that's clearly stolen too. This is because the electronic items can be tracked, whereas silverware can't. James then spots the missing poster, and then it's outside that we see the other side of the scene with Paul. I like how we cut to black in the middle of this, as we already know what's happened. However, this has also been taken as showing James's concussion caused him to forget what happened just before. James then spots Alex's house, which looks pretty dilapidated. Again, the grass hasn't been cut, and we can see newspapers on the driveway. Breaking in there, he then goes through the stuff. He finds a copy of Willow, which is also about a witch that attacks children, who's eventually defeated by her own spell.
Oh, fuck, Willow.
It's here that he then gets scared by the parents, which was another big scare in the cinema. Pushing the TV through the living room, I love how we just see them reflected in the glass. He doesn't react to them at all, and possibly has seen people zoned out like this when he's been under the influence in the past. If we look at Cregger's writing style as well, this also reminded me a lot of Barbarian. There, Long's character AJ finds tunnels under the house, however, rather than freaking out, he just sees it as a way to make some money because it's added area space to the property. That's kind of what James is like, and he goes searching for extra things to sell. While doing this, he comes across some Campbell's soup, which we learn is what Alex uses to feed his parents and the kids with. These kids are what James then discovers in the basement. Things kick off, and then James rushes out as Alex's parents chase him out of the house. As the door cracks open, it sheds some light on what's happened to them, and I love the way they're almost like blood-craving zombies. Back at the forest, James then notices a strange figure waving at him. Gladys is now haunting him and potentially trying to draw him to the house. In order to stop people investigating it further, she has to lure them in and then take them under her spell. You might also notice that they've removed the bottom of Gladys, so it kind of appears like she's coming out the little tree. I did feel like this was intentional and sort of showing how she's connected to her little black tree, because she's probably doing that spell with it at the moment. Either way, James rushes to the tent, and it's at this point he stabs Paul. James then tells him about the kids, and he goes with Paul to the house. I love this scene, and James waits for hours in the back of the car. Paul then comes out in the night and pulls him inside. Such a terrifying moment, and the perfect way to end the chapter. Joining Marcus, we see the other side of the phone call with Justine from before. She's warning him there's something going on in the house, and we've just seen the kind of thing that's happening there, so it recontextualizes it perfectly. Here he's with his husband at the supermarket, saying he'll invite Alex's parents in, and we finally meet Gladys. Played by Amy Madigan, she claims she's Alex's mother's sister. Now, I do believe this is a fucking lie, and that Gladys is much, much older. Later on, Alex's dad mentions how Gladys is his grandmother's sister, which messes with this story.
Oh, no, it's not serious. Nothing terminal. It's just a touch of consumption.
Mentioning consumption, this is also a term for tuberculosis that goes back as far as the 17th century. Around the 1600s, yeah. This was a time in which the Salem witch trials happened, and Gladys may have been alive during this.
You're a witch! I'm not a witch. Are you kissing me?
Because of this though, it's a bit weird that Alex's parents think she's a blood relative. Now, why this is could be for one of two reasons.
Why?
Well, I'll tell you. Alex's parents may have known someone called Gladys that they met many, many years ago. They may not remember what she looked like, and thus Gladys can take on her identity. When we see Gladys behind closed doors at Alex's, she's vastly different to how she appears with a wig and glasses. So this may have been something she adopted from the real Gladys. It's also possible she can implant false memories. If she can control people's minds and give them visions, then it may be a case where she can also make people remember things differently. This could even speak to the town in which no one quite knows what happened, and thus they've covered it up. After the movie release, there was a report that said there may be a Gladys prequel in the works, so keep your eyes peeled for that. This was originally going to be a chapter in the movie though, but they ended up cutting it out. Cregger said he told Amy Madigan she could choose between two options for her backstory, and these shine a bit of light on the character. The first was that she was a normal person who was tapping into dark magic to make herself younger. The second option was that she's a strange creature who isn't actually human. She simply adopted the wig and makeup and tried to mimic us, which I would never do. Over the time that she ingested us, she learned our language and knowledge. She tried to pass herself off as human and was simply a parasite that had a form similar to humanity. Kinda similar to how parasites come in all shapes and sizes. I love this feeling, and it really heightens the horror. I'm someone who loves horrors that revolve around the idea of parasites, and whether it's it or the outsider, I love the idea that a human-looking creature that isn't quite human can disguise as us and try and evade capture. When asked on what she chose, Madigan said, "It's no fun in telling the audience what's going on, and it's better to hear what they think." Personally, I also see her as a sort of Pied Piper figure who leads the children away from their parents. Dark magic is also often said to come with a cost. This could be what's destroying her body and why she keeps needing it more and more. I'm guessing that in the past, the parents would have worked to heal her, which is why she just took them in the first place. However, this failed this time round, and thus she had to kidnap the kids. Going to Marcus's house, we see them making 7 hot dogs, which is Cregger giving a nod to Trevor Moore.
Something like, I don't know, 7?
7 hot dogs?
7, yeah.
A day.
Is that high?
It's a little high.
Marcus's husband Terry is also wearing a Minnie Mouse shirt to match Marcus's Mickey. On TV, they're watching a show about cordyceps, which are parasites that latch themselves onto ants and control them. Made famous by The Last of Us, they're of course a reference to what Gladys is doing with those under her spell. I did also wonder if the ant and the fact Gladys portrays herself as the ant was just Cregger doing some clever wordplay. Appearing at the house, I love the way she says she walked over there. When she leaves though, we see her getting in a car. Gladys is just so friendly at first though, and she carries out the spell in front of them. They're just too polite to shove her out, and she turns Marcus on Terry with the bell. Vomiting black bile all over him, this is normally a sign of possession and evil inhabiting the body. He then headbutts him to death before getting turned towards Justine. All the while, Gladys is just casually going about her business. I love how in the running scene his face swells up more and more though, and it's not just instantaneous. We then find out what happened on the other side of the scene with Justine, and watch as Archer sees it's not her fault. Fighting to stop Marcus, he's ultimately hit by a car and beheaded by the impact. Yay! It's at this point that we start to learn the truth and finally see things from Alex's perspective. We see Justine's parasite lesson and also watch his dad picking him up.
Who else can think of an example of a parasite? Anyone? Lisa? A tapeworm. A tapeworm. Very good.
Gladys is then brought in the night along with her plant. This is most likely a blackthorn, which are trees said to be used in witchcraft. Snapping the branches on these apparently allowed one to conduct spells, which is also how it's used in the film. Another clue that something's going on with her healing is the fact that the next time we see her, she's walking completely fine. Gladys also tells Alex that she hasn't seen him since he was a boy, but this does contradict what his mum and dad were arguing about. There the dad says they haven't seen her in 15 years, potentially adding credence to the fake memory theory.
Oh, you know, I haven't seen you since you were a little teeny baby.
All right, we haven't seen this woman in 15 years. She didn't show up to our wedding.
We then see Alex at school doing a test on telling the time. The final clock on the page looks like 2:15, which might be a 2:17 reference, or it might be a reach. Either way, Alex does wake up at 2:15 before witnessing Gladys do the spell at 2:17. Either way, coming home from school, Alex has to walk home and he finds his parents under the spell. They're able to talk, but it's sort of in the vacant way that Archer's wife did before.
Hey, how was school? I'm going to work.
Gladys is now looking a lot better though, showing how having them like this is making her younger. She shows how much she has them under her control, as they're even willing to stab themselves in the face. It's a brutal scene and kind of builds off the cheek stabbing that James did with Paul. Gladys then does the spell, and it could be that the 2:17's also a nod to the witching hour. This is typically thought to be around 3 AM. In Brazilian Portuguese, the movie is actually called A Hora do Mal,
which of course in German means a whale's vagina.
or the hour of evil, possibly hinting to this. We then see Alex going to school and having to buy the soup, and it's a pretty harrowing scene. We see all the things from Alex's perspective, including Justine coming into the school to find the kids missing. We also see the police interview, knowing that Alex's dad's under Gladys's control. She excuses this as being a stroke, and then the police also investigate the house. But Gladys is clever and gets the kids to hide while Lynette's closing in. One day, Alex comes home to see Paul and James in the house, and he's told they're gonna have to leave soon. Gladys makes his parents guard her room, and she places a line of salt in the corridor. This is sort of a tripwire that will set them off if someone tries to break in. Lines of salt typically were used to stop slugs and snails from entering a property, however, they've gone beyond this and taken on the notion of being a protective barrier. Justine and Archer then arrive, and they have to fight against James and Paul. Neither stop coming, and it's to the point that Paul won't even waver in the face of getting his cheek potato peeled, which... Justine then shoots him, which again has no effect, and thus she has to shoot him in the head. Meanwhile upstairs, Alex breaks a line of salt and his parents go into attack mode. This includes his mother banging her head through the bathroom door. This is a clear nod at The Shining, and you might remember in our original ending explained, we pointed out the connection to 217. Though Kubrick's film version has the room 237, the book is actually 217. Since then, Cregger has cleared up the connection to The Shining is indeed the case, and that the number was also a direct nod to that. Alex then does his own spell while Archer looks for his son in the basement. Gladys is hiding out here, and she grabs his necklace, which allows her to control him. He then attacks Justine, but luckily Alex snaps the branch in time. We then get a hilarious climax where she runs through the neighbours being chased after by the kids. It's absolutely a brilliant scene, and they use a one-take shot to follow her through the houses. The kids then swarm her and tear her apart using their bare hands. Finally, the spell drops from Archer and Alex's parents, with Alex then hugging them. They're still pretty vacant though, and Archer goes out to find his son in a similar position. Everyone's blank and expressionless, which shows they're not really there anymore. This ties back to how they never returned and the witch's controls eating away their soul. If you have a parasite for too long, it can eat away at you over time and lessen who you are. Now personally, I believe this is Cregger showing another part of grief in which you just left like a vacant, empty shell of who you were. You're no longer the person you once were, and a large part of you's also died as well. We see this vacant look in Alex as he goes to the school, even though he hasn't been affected by the spell. It's just due to what he's gone through. If we look at the film on a literal level, it shows how trauma goes on way past dealing with the problem that caused it. It's also Archer's worst nightmare coming true. He saw his son in the dream where he wasn't responding, and now he's doing that in real life as well. He's lost the child that he had, and though he says he found him, he never really did. We learn that Alex's parents are still being fed soup, but now that's happening at a proper institution. Alex has moved in with his auntie, and his life is now forever changed as well. However, there is the hope that we can recover and grow from the trauma, and we hear that some kids have started talking. Things are improving, and though it's a downtrodden ending, there is still some hope. Humans can heal and get past their grief and eventually come out of it on the other side. Anyway, that takes us to the credits where Cregger thanks David Fincher. He said he gave him a lot of feedback during the filming and basically talked him through lenses, ADR, and everything he could do to help him learn what would take the film to the next level. And I definitely feel like this movie is a continuation in his incredible career thus far. Cregger is 2 for 2 with me, and both this and Barbarian are films I love in terms of storytelling, overall atmosphere and feeling, and just how insane those plots are. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. How do you think it compared to that? And did you take anything else from the movie? Please drop a like on the video and also a comment. And if you want to follow us on Instagram and keep up to date with what we're doing, then make sure you check us out at Heavy Spoilers. Did you know as well that members of the channel, you also get early access to videos? If you click the join button, you get at least one breakdown a week before anyone else. And it all helps me do stuff like buy lovely wigs and nice sunglasses and look fantastic. If not though, huge thank you for all your support anyway. Just watching the videos means a hell of a lot to me, and thanks for sitting through it. Now if you want something else to watch, you've got a breakdown of Barbarian on screen right now. Definitely go check it out right after this, as there's a lot of things you'd have missed, and I'm quite proud of that video as well, so go give it a watch. If not though, then thanks for sitting through this video. I've been your host Paul, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace, baby.